Today, guys, on the podcast, we have Life in the Roman Army. We have a Goblet of Fire, and then, of course, the weekly reveal to what magical book I have pulled down from my to-be-read shelf. All of that and more this week on a novel review. Hello and welcome to the Literature Podcast, a novel review. My name is Seamus, your host, and together we will discuss, dissect, and explore the wonderful world of literature, and the wonderful world of literature is a vast and dense jungle, so let's start making our way through, one book at a time. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of a novel review, a book podcast with me, the host, Seamus. Another week, another dollar, same podcast, different book, I don't know. But before we dive into the book, which is this week, The Goblet of Fire, we always take a moment to reflect on any mantelpiece moments. And this week, I just managed to catch the end of an exhibition at the British Museum called Legion, Life in the Roman Army, and it was incredible. It was really, really good. I mean, I'm a sucker for Roman history. It's what I specialized in when I was studying. It was fantastic. I mean, they'd laid it out really well in that you followed a particular soldier, a real historical soldier, and it was sort of his journey from one trying to sort of get into the army at a very sort of lowly position, and then how he worked his way up through the ranks until his eventual retirement, which is a pretty incredible journey to have sort of documented as one for technically a nobody, but to have them getting right through to the end, because on one placard it said that they estimate around 50% of soldiers died just from general life, sanitary reasons, food shortages, wars themselves, of course. And so, it was really incredible, but I think the most incredible, and I shouldn't look so happy when I'm talking about it because it's incredibly dark, but the most incredible thing there was they had actual human remains, skeletal remains, and there was this one cabinet that had an entire skeleton in it, and through the ankle, this person had been crucified, and through the ankle, the nail still remained, which I just think is absolutely incredible. I mean, I shudder to think of the pain of being crucified at all, but having it didn't look like the sharpest nail, probably worn down over time a bit, but a nail being driven through your ankle. But the fact that it was still sitting there in the ankle, nearly 2,000 years later is absolutely incredible. So that was amazing. Had a great time. Bit of housekeeping, if you would like to like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. 5-star reviews, also greatly appreciated. Absolutely love them. Really make my day. So please like, subscribe, hit the 5 stars, and please enjoy the show. Okay, here we go. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, book number 4. I was really looking forward to this one because it's the first book that sort of crosses over the 500-page mark. I think Prisoner of Azkaban was 330 pages-ish, and this is a paltry 615. So a relatively big book. Good to see the story branch out a bit as well. Before I get into that, I should probably do an overview, shouldn't I? Just so we all are on the same page. So it's year 4. Harry is back at Hogwarts, not before a trip to the Quidditch World Cup where the Dark Mark is uncovered. But beyond all that, he is back at Hogwarts. And this year it is playing host to an ancient tournament, the Triwizard Tournament, the Triwizard Cup for the Triwizard Cup. And it takes place between 3 schools, in this case, Hogwarts, the Durmstrangs, and the Beauxbatons. And they come together and 3 champions, one from each school, are selected to compete in this ancient tournament of... Well, it's not really a specific tournament because all the tasks vary and are very different, but they're just meant to test your will and your strength and your endurance and your intellect and everything like this. So it's a bit of an all-encompassing kind of tournament. And it's absolutely fantastic. Normally you have one from each school participating, but not this year because, woe and behold, Harry is also selected, so Hogwarts has 2 champions, and so that's what the book is about. Harry taking part in the Triwizard Tournament. Fantastic stuff. Great premise for a book. Really changes sort of the tone of the story. It really needed as well. This is sort of the midway book. And I guess that's a great place to start, is the very, very beginning of the book, because in the first 3 books, we traditionally open with the story at number 4 Privet Drive in Surrey. It's in Surrey. And you open and it's summertime and Harry's sort of there grumbling because he's unhappy being back with his cousin, auntie and uncle. And that's how the story is started for the first 3 books. But for the first time in this book, we actually open a different way. The first chapter takes place away from Harry, which I think is, a really sort of, I was going to say a healthy kind of change, but it's a really nice shake up from the not monotony of the first 3 books, but sort of the expected kind of formula that has been laid. And what it does is it really kind of reminds you that, yes, this is a story about Harry, but there is sort of greater forces going on in the background, because the first chapter revolves around Voldemort, and we sort of see him and we understand, because it's always talked about, that he is somewhere in the outer world, but we never know quite where. And so this is a really nice time to have a scene completely separate from Harry, because we don't have many of them at this stage, but to get a scene completely separate from Harry and understand that while he's at school, while he's having these moments, while he's getting his education, going to the Quidditch World Cup, all this stuff, there is stuff going in the background that's actually contributing to this story, but we just don't know it yet and we're not privy to it yet. So really enjoyed that change and that shake-up. Of course, that first chapter actually ends that it is a dream in Harry's mind, and we get into that sort of later in the later books, but it was nice while it lasted. I'm going to now make a controversial opinion. Well, it might be controversial. You guys might completely agree. This is kind of the first really important book. The first 3 are nice, and I like them, and I enjoyed them. But in terms of the actual story, I'm going to say this is the first really important one, and that the first 3 are, definitely not redundant in any way, because there's always something before. The laws of causation sort of says that there's always something before that contributes to where you are today and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to devalue that at all, but I think that if J.K. Rowling had decided to release this book first, we would have been absolutely fine as the reader. Obviously, we love having the first 3 books to embellish longer in Harry's life, and it's a really clean place to start the story in his first year at Hogwarts, and it obviously makes sense, and it sort of contains the universe because each year is a different book, so it's probably going to end by his final year. But if this had been the first book, we probably would have been fine. So potentially controversial. I don't know. That's what we're here for. This book, I'm going to say, I know Half-Blood Prince is my favorite, without a doubt. But I'm going to say this is probably the most fun in terms of just kind of like raw fun, because we get to see Harry in a very different light. In summertime, he gets to go to the Quidditch World Cup, and we sort of get that expansion of the wizarding world that we haven't really been privy to at this stage. We get to meet Beauxbaton's Academy, we get to meet the Durmstrang boys, and it's rumored that they're from Bulgaria and Beauxbatons are from France, although I love this fact that you never actually know where another wizarding school is, so that they can sort of conceal their secrecies. But it's that expansion, it's then seeing the Quidditch World Cup as well before all that. So it's this sort of like widening of the wizard world that I really kind of enjoyed, and I think is where this story really flourished itself. And then, of course, we get the introduction of the Triwizard Tournament, which is, just a whole really fun idea, and I think it's kind of something that you can really get behind. And there's a lot of chatter in all the books about sort of the divisions between the 4 houses in Hogwarts, but in this book it kind of feels like they sort of come together a bit more to sort of cheer on, in this case, Cedric and Harry. But in any other normal circumstance, it would have just been one sort of champion from that school, and it felt like a really nice point where the houses can unite. Although I had forgotten reading how poorly the Slytherins are painted as. It seems like everyone in Slytherin is a really, really bad character, and I think this might be a controversial thing as well, because I know J.K. Rowling wrote them this way to be really horrible, But I'd like to think there are some nice Slytherins out there, and I think they are quite misrepresented. But that being said, I'd also forgotten how terrible Snape is as a character. Like, he is like borderline evil through these books so far. And I know he's got a really good redemptive story, and it's all part of an act and stuff, but he is actually such a wicked and cruel, like he's downright cruel. And there's one scene in this book where he's like incredibly cruel to Hermione, and I'm just like, wow, you're a dick. Sorry for the language. I've kind of just gone on some massive spray about stuff, but yeah, there's the potential uniting. That's what I love about the Triwizard Tournament, is that there's the potential uniting of the houses and sort of the Hogwarts community, which I absolutely thought was good. Now, in my previous episodes, I'd actually spoken sort of about the pressure that Harry faces in these books. You know, in the first 2 books, he really seeks out the pressure, and that he wanted to find the Philosopher's Stone and he wanted to find the Chamber of Secrets. And so he's quite active in his role in the books. And then I was speaking about how the shift in Prisoner of Azkaban is really to that of he's being hunted and haunted by something, and it's quite abstract because the tea leaves tell us it's the Grim and it's this great black dog, but there's that element of doubt in that we don't really know if we believe that, because divination is kind of pegged as this kind of pseudo-scientific magical form, I guess. And so we don't really know what's coming for him, and we don't know where it is, and it's very, very abstract. And I think one of the lines is it's like trying to grasp smoke or something like that, which is, you know, a wonderful line. But in this book, it's a completely different kind of pressure, in that you can't put your name in the Triwizard Tournament to try enter the Triwizard Tournament, but if you're underage, and someone manages to get Harry's name into the cup, which means there's someone inside the walls of Hogwarts that is actively trying to put Harry in harm's way. And it's a very different pressure in that it's not kind of like, oh, is it the tea leaves? Am I just seeing things in a bush? Anything like that, like from the last book. This is no, there is genuinely someone in this building, albeit very big building, but there is someone here in the grounds of Hogwarts that is actively trying to put Harry in harm's way. And I really enjoyed that, but it also kind of, I think, revealed to me that I would have really appreciated a breakdown scene from Harry. You know, not a complete breakdown. We don't need him going to great lengths or anything like that. But I think this is his 4th year. He's now 14 years old. There's been drama every year. And it's kind of like a really different kind of pressure, and someone's really trying to actively cause him harm. And I think I would have loved a really kind of emotional response to this. Not that I want him to necessarily suffer or anything like that, but he just seems to, at this stage, take a lot just in his stride, which I'm like, he is 15. Like, this is a lot of pressure he's had to shoulder. And it's not like he's been preparing his whole life for this as well. He only found out he was a wizard when he was 11. So it's kind of like, snap, we're in this magical world and here's a mountain of pressure. Previous to this, you barely left the house, but suddenly someone is trying to kill you. And it's kind of like this very sharp intake of pressure that's been mounted on Harry from the very beginning, from leading a very, very sheltered life. And he just seems to really be able to take it all in his stride. And I would have really loved just to kind of break down from Harry a little bit, just to show that emotion, to humanize him in a different kind of way. I think I would have really enjoyed. Speaking of emotion, I couldn't help but laughing when I read this scene, because I spoke about Ron at length in the Prisoner of Azkaban episode about how he is just such a lovely character and he never gets jealous. He's always like Harry's #1 fan, and he's always so encouraging of Harry, and basically he's never jealous. And then Ron gets very jealous in this book, which I think is pretty fair enough, although I don't think it was kind of handled the right kind of way, because it seemed a bit silly. But I can understand why Ron's jealous, but I think the way it was executed perhaps could have been done better, because all it really takes to clear up is just a conversation of, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Harry? And he's like, no, Ron, obviously not. Like, that's crazy. But instead, so much happens because it's unspoken, which I guess is probably speaking into a larger thing that men probably don't talk to each other enough about things that actually matter. And so they didn't speak and communicate properly, and this idea sort of festered in Ron's mind, and he became incredibly jealous. But I kind of I love the fact that I said Ron was this selfless individual, and then in this book he's like, no, I am jealous, and I'm going to be really rude and unfair and unjust to Harry, and treat him really poorly, which yeah, I shouldn't speak too soon, basically, is what I'm learning, because there's no point, because I'll probably be proved wrong in the next book. Just now, to give a bit of a shout out to J.K. Rowling and the planning and thought she put into these books, because I do think she did a pretty good job, although there are quite a few plot holes and mistakes made. I think she did make it some good effective planning in other areas. There's one particular scene where Dumbledore's saying he needed the bathroom, and this bathroom that he'd never noticed before sort of appeared out of nowhere, and he was able to relieve himself. And it's kind of a comment that you would read over if you don't know what he's referencing, and it's kind of unclear if Dumbledore even knows what he's referencing, although I'm sure he is aware of what he's talking about. But it's that subtle foundation that then gets used for later in the book's Order of the Phoenix, because he's talking about, of course, the Room of Requirement, which is a room that appears in exactly whatever form you need it to. The films do sort of allude to this initial line from Dumbledore in the books and saying that if I needed a toilet, yes, a toilet would appear. So it's just kind of little moments like that you really kind of appreciate for reading for a writer to have laid in literally books earlier, because the Room of Requirement doesn't get utilized until the Order of the Phoenix. So it's something like that I really kind of enjoy about coming back to read these books, because they do kind of reward rereads. I think this book is just fun, because it's essentially a large sporting event that takes place over a year between 3 schools. And I mean, Hogwarts is such a fantastic place to hold it, because it's remote, it's large, there's dragons involved. And I mean, Tolkien says that unless your fantasy story has dragons in it, there's no point in telling your story. So of course there's dragons, and Harry does some masterful flying. Although I did feel pretty bad for Oliver Wood in that there's no sort of pre-warning that there's going to be a Triwizard Tournament. And so all the 7th years think they're going to come in for their last year of school, and therefore their last year of Quidditch, which, I mean, a lot of people play school sports and then never play sport outside of school. So I can see why he'd be annoyed, because then they're like, no, the Triwizard Tournament's going on, so there's no Quidditch this year. And it's just kind of like swept under the rug. And it's like, I feel bad for the characters that are like, oh, this was my last chance to play Quidditch and potentially win the Quidditch House Cup. So yeah, I thought that was a bit tactless, to be honest. But alas, here we are. The book is still a huge amount of fun. But of course, the ending is the real death of Harry's innocence. I kind of spoke about the death of Harry's innocence before, but this is like, there's no going back beyond this, because Voldemort returns. He who must not be named returns fully, completely in the flesh. And not only that, Cedric Diggory dies and Harry watches someone's death. So it's really kind of this dark moment when, of course, Voldemort comes back and he was always trying to get Harry Potter and always trying to kill Harry Potter, but now he has means of his own kind of way to kill Harry Potter. He's a physical being that can use magic and kill people again, which is all kinds of frightening. And it's kind of the reason I say that this is the first really important book, because it is the first real time that we get the chief villain appearing. He sort of appeared in Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, but never in the way that we, I guess, want him to, because obviously we want him to materialize and cause and wreak havoc upon the world. So that's why I say this is sort of the first really big, important book. But nonetheless, it's a fantastic book. I hope I haven't upset anyone with that opinion. And if I have, too bad. And yeah, it's incredibly fun. I really enjoyed this book. I breezed through it. 600 pages goes way too quickly. I did read somewhere that the reason this book is so much longer is because J.K. Rowling had to write out a very clear plot hole, and I didn't actually read any more, so I don't know if she ever actually specified what that plot hole is. I should go in and look at that, because it's one of those stories that you read and you're like, how could you have made this shorter? I don't know, and I don't know what plot hole you were writing out. And also, did you not notice those other plot holes? But we'll skip over them. So yeah, Goblet of Fire, very solid outing. I think first really important book. What should I rate this out of 5? I think I'm going to give it a 4.2 out of 5. Okay, so what was I reading this week? Well, naturally, I think we're on a bit of a trend now of revealing that I'm just reading the next Harry Potter book. I searched everywhere for this book to get it secondhand, and I absolutely could not find it So I bought it brand new in this funny, I think it's the 20-year sort of cover, 20th year edition cover, and I got the Slytherin cover. It's probably the most intelligent cash grab I've ever seen, because for those listening to this, the book is completely green. All the pages are green on the outside. The book inside is normal, of course, but all the pages are green. The cover's green. It's done in the sort of way of Slytherin house. It's called the Hogwarts House Edition, so naturally they've done all 7 books this way, but because there's 4 houses, there's 4 different kinds of ways. So there's 28 different styles of the same book for different covers for this particular edition. And as we know, Potterheads are very passionate, and people get very, very passionate about what house they're in. So that's why I say it's a highly intelligent cash grab, because people no doubt are going to go out and get their particular house. All 7 books, 8 books, even better. I don't know why I picked up the Slytherin. Don't ask me. You could ask me because I'm the one that paid for it, but no. I looked everywhere for this book secondhand. I managed to get everyone else secondhand. I bought this, started reading it about halfway through, and then I was in a secondhand shop yesterday, and of course, Order of the Phoenix was there. So that was a bit annoying, wasn't it? Alas, here we are. So far, the book is good. This is the biggest of all the books. Harry's a bit of a pain in the ass in this book, but more on that later. I mean, I'm hoping he sort of loosens up a bit, because he is bloody annoying at this stage. Still cruising along nicely. I mean, J.K. Rowling has a really nice readable writing style. The story is good. Not a massive fan of the green pages, but what can we do? So yeah, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. See you in 1 month's time for that one. If you have listened this far, guys, please consider hitting those 5 stars. I would really appreciate it. Also, feel free to head along to the website and support the pod. But as always, thank you for your attention. So to take us away today, I think the opening paragraph to Susan Sontag's Notes on Camp. And it goes, "Many things in the world have not been named, and many things, even if they have been named, have never been described. One of these things is the sensibility, unmistakably modern, a variant of sophistication but hardly identical with it, that goes by the cult name of camp.